To tell this story, I had a number of interviews with residents of the occupied territories, intelligence operatives, and active and current resistance fighters. My one big takeaway from doing this research was the scale of the resistance, which in just 4 weeks led to the direct deaths of 73 Russian military and servicemen. The resistance is not just the odd fighter, but rather an insurrectionist campaign that undermines the sustainability of Russia's occupation. Hello, I'm Jade McGlynn, Senior Non-Resident Associate with the Europe, Russia and Eurasia team at CSIS, and I'm here to talk about my recent report, Crossing Thresholds, Ukrainian Resistance to Russian Occupation. In the occupied territories of Ukraine, Russia is trying to extinguish Ukraine's identity, in keeping with Putin's stated aims since the full-scale invasion. My report details how Ukrainians, despite executions, being used as human shields, torture, rape, are resisting in remarkable numbers and in remarkable ways, from pinning ribbons to benches to blowing up Russia's secret policemen. To tell this story, I had a number of interviews with residents of the occupied territories, intelligence operatives, and active and current resistance fighters. My one big takeaway from doing this research was the scale of the resistance, which in just 4 weeks led to the direct deaths of 73 Russian military and servicemen. The resistance is not just the odd fighter, but rather an insurrectionist campaign that undermines the sustainability of Russia's occupation. I knew that I wanted to write this report for quite some time. I split my current time between the UK and Kharkiv in eastern Ukraine, and there I spend a lot of time on the deoccupied territories. While there, I kept on hearing these amazing stories of resistance, of bravery, of courage, and I wanted to find a way to tell these stories, but to do so safely, and to do so on a platform where people might listen. And I have to thank Carnegie and CSIS for giving me that platform. Ultimately, readers deserve to know these stories because they have direct policy relevance when it comes to seeking solutions to this awful war. If you think that the war was started because of NATO expansion, then you have to answer the question as to why 20,000 children have been deported from the occupied territories to be re-educated and to get new identities in Russia. If you think it was started to protect Russian speakers, then you have to ask why there is the mass-scale torture of Russian speakers on the occupied territory and the destruction of entire towns and cities like Bakhmut and Popasna, which are not to be rebuilt. And if you think that the people living in the occupied territories welcomed their occupiers as liberators, then I think the report gives you a pretty clear argument that that's not true. If you want to argue for Ukraine to cede these territories formally, I don't think that will work to stop Russian aggression, but if you do want to make that argument, then you have to be honest about exactly what you're leaving them to. My report, I hope, will leave you in no doubt as to quite how awful a fate that is. To read the full report, Crossing Thresholds, Ukrainian Resistance to Russian Occupation, please visit csis.org.